Welcome to the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders at B2B services, tech, and SaaS companies to learn the systems and processes they've used to create success for their business. We'll also learn from marketing and sales experts to provide insights to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and the podcast is brought to you by Modern Revenue Strategies and their 10x ROI B2B growth guarantee. Schedule a free diagnostic call to learn the fastest path to double your B2B revenues in just 90 days. Thanks everyone so much for joining us. Really excited for our conversation today. I have Christian Morris, who is the founder and CEO of Rush Roto, which is a product photo AI for e-commerce. And we're going to talk a little bit about his sort of journey of growing his company and getting up through over 100 customers and over 100 subscribers, and some of the systems and processes that he put into place. So, Christian, thanks so much for joining me today.
I'm definitely excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Yeah.
And yes, so.
Yeah, maybe we start, just tell us a little bit about your journey with Rush Roto and sort of how you got to where you are now.
Oh, for sure. So I am a lifelong nerd, just to put that out there. One where I started my entrepreneurship journey actually at the age of 13. That's actually how I learned programming. I ended up turning a small two-bedroom apartment into a studio. It was my mom's apartment, but she let me keep the people coming in and out of there because I was making enough to keep up the rent. So that was my intro to entrepreneurship. Fast forward, as you know, the pandemic did a lot of things. And I'd actually gotten away from entrepreneurship, and I was working for a Fortune 500 for a while there. But doing all that stay-at-home stuff, being stuck in, I got back to programming. And that's where I started to develop something completely different from Rush Roto. I was actually working on an AR/VR app. Believe it or not. And that actually included a piece of tech that removed the background from videos, and that turned into to what I use for product photography. So to kind of put a bow on that a little bit there. So going from AR to VR was kind of like it's a crazy a crazy flip to get into e-commerce. But my wife was actually starting an Etsy shop around the same time. And I was showing people my the prototype I had built for the AR VR stuff, and I was getting literally like no interest. Like, oh, it was really cool, but people wouldn't talk about it and wouldn't care past that. And I would show them just a little quick video I used that background removal tech for my wife, and that really got people excited. It got her excited. She started using it, and it got some users excited. And from there, I went on the path of trying to figure out, well, who is the best audience for this? And trying to figure out the best way to reach these folks, and that led me on the crazy trip that has been the intro. That's basically the background of Rush Roto there.
That's great. That's great, and that really actually leads into one of the first key problems that a lot of entrepreneurs and founders run into, which is sort of zeroing in on the right niche, and to really sort of refine that product offering and your messaging so that it's really compelling and persuasive and stands out. And a lot of companies say that once you get this right, it makes all of your messaging really resonate. You can get a 10x return versus spending the same amount of money on sort of a weak message. And so you talked about sort of pivoting your product a little bit. Now that you sort of pivoted your solution to be this sort of background removal, I'm sure even there you struggled a little bit with knowing what's the right way to say it, what's the right kind of benefit to lead in to really get your audience excited, or features that they care about. How did you land on that sort of positioning strategy or your unique selling proposition?
So also I have a background in like marketing myself and trying to figure out what made the most sense, who was going to be the audience that was going to need this the most, so I could make this appealing as I was looking into actually getting some VC funding. And the first thing I landed on was actually photographers and product photographers specifically, because I figured they have most of the clients. So I started collecting a list. And at first I was just reaching out to them like, hey, like this, can I have a 5-minute conversation? I want to talk to you about a possible product. I was the intro to that. So it was a lot of spreadsheeting and keeping a list of what everyone who I thought was going to be my customer. But to kind of to your point there, over time, I quickly found out that what the product could do automatically with AI at the time, because this was 2021, the end of 2021, 21 and 22. So all this tech is very new at this point in
Mhm.
time. It was not as particular for that customer base. So there was a lot of going back and forth, asking questions, systematic questions, not necessarily letting them know what the product was. I don't know if people that are familiar with the book, The Mom Test, that was like a game changer for me as far as making sure that I'm asking the right questions and getting untainted, feedback to really get to the root of what the customer actually wants. So more so
That,
trying to figure out what are
that,
they
that book
currently.
was the mom test, right? I want to make
Yes,
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I knew the name of the author offhand. I apologize. Uh,
Sorry, we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
but the key thing for that was just making sure you're trying to figure out what the user doesn't even know themselves, because they're so used to the base solution that the way they're solving the problem now, and they may think that what you're offering is exactly what they want if you just tell them what your product is, and they might give you some the qualitative feedback versus like quantitative stuff, like what are you actually using, how long does this take, why are you taking this extensive time here to do this. But anyway, through that, I found out that this product wasn't the best for photographers because they actually did like that fine-tuned time, being able to be very particular. They're more so artists, where that made me kind of pivot and figure out that hey, actually, this product was probably better suited for the quick entrepreneur that is trying to just get these product photos done quickly, easily, because product photography is just pretty expensive for
Yeah.
most businesses. So that I don't know if you want me to stop there or.
No, that's great. So you recognize that the problem that it solves was better suited to a particular niche than another, and different than you originally thought. How did you know that that was the right one? Like, how did you know that you had landed on the right niche, and that the sort, and it seems like your story around kind of simplicity, so ease of solution rather than the sort of artfulness, it was sort of the benefit. How did you know that was what was going to work?
So really, it was dealing with my wife. So my wife had the Etsy shop that she was running, and I was also helping on the business end,
Uh-huh.
and just going in and watching her process with how she was handling the photos, and then going from product to product that she was using to solve the issue and trying to find faster ways of doing it. When you're not an actual photographer, you spend a lot of time just trying to get the basic shots down,
Yeah.
and then it takes you even longer to get better at that. So seeing the struggles and where she's struggling at gave me good insights. And then I started diving more into those same groups that she was in and talking to those different sellers directly in Facebook groups and different. I was tried Reddit and LinkedIn, but you quickly realize that there's different types of entrepreneurs that are going to be at these different places,
Yep.
and there's some platforms fit your actual demo a little bit better than others. So the
Yep.
place that I'm mostly focused on is Etsy, and I find that for the kind of person that I'm selling to, they more so fit like the Facebook demographic. So they're actually not as much on the LinkedIn's or not as much on the Reddits of the world. That's where they decide to ask their questions, and it's the best place to reach them. And then it was from that point really just coming up with the systems to really connect with them via those spreadsheets, and figure out okay, well they said this, or let me record this call. Let me take
Yeah.
these notes down to figure out which one of these features is actually what you really need versus what you think you need to get what you want there.
That's great. Well, and now you start to get into sort of the next topic, which is, how do, where you find customers. And a lot of early stage companies will try to establish like a cost to acquire a customer, or a CAC, and use that as a sort of a north star of, is this a good channel for me or a bad channel? And you talked about evaluating some different channels in order to find the one that was really a good fit. Were there some benchmarks? People will talk about a 3-to-1 lifetime value, or a 1 year payback on a customer for a CAC, whereas some more VC founded companies will kind of not worry so much about the payback, and mostly just getting the volume. Talk to us a little bit about how you identified your early channels, and some of it obviously came from some visibility into some early customers, and where they were. But how did you know it was the right channel, or how did you find other channels to evaluate and then either rule them out or rule them in?
So really, it was through just quickly testing different channels. Honestly, since I'm pretty early, I haven't spent so much on different areas. Like I did try the whole let me write some blogs and do the whole SEO process
Right.
and kind of find them based on what I know that this demographic is searching for through the just keyword optimization. Honestly, the biggest way for me getting traction in this space was being able to reach them through warm intros that folks were getting, just because, like I said, the tech was is so new and
Right.
it's gotten better exponentially over the time frame that since I started. And being able to reach out to these folks where I see that they're actually talking and where I see that they're selling. So the funny thing is, so if I actually want to talk to the sellers and get to know them personally, I am on Facebook. But if I want to actually like interact with someone cold and actually bring them in to start talking to them, I actually have to start on Instagram, just because that's where they're usually
Interesting.
selling, and I'm able to reach them a little bit, a little bit easier through certain tactics. So another system that I have is, since I'm generating photos, a lot of these folks that sell you have to use social media to reach most of their audience, and they end up
Right.
using a lot of the same photos over and over again. So I'm able to go and basically like look at their photos, scrape them, and then give them back an entire deck that I basically at this point create systematically. So I like pick a few photos out, and then I automatically generate, some images for them with AI that have their products in them, and I can quickly go like, hey, this is what your stuff could look like if you signed up with me. If you'd like to know more, talk to me, and I'm even willing to offer you, this percent off or possibly free if we're able to, create some special, templates based off of your aesthetic, or you give me some ideas and we can trade information back. So that's basically been the way I've gotten this quick traction. It's really just reaching out directly, having this straight up. It's basically a script now. So I have the straight up script. Even the actual photos that I make are a script. It's a particular set that I get because most
Right.
people really want similar stuff, honestly,
Right.
as far as how they want things to look, and just repeating.
So that's a really great, obviously, idea that you had, an innovation that you know sort of brought technology to bear, so that you could do this at scale. And so as you start to think about, scaling and moving beyond, just what you can do, and to really grow the company to the next stage, how are you thinking about, sort of implementing systems that you don't have to do everything, so that other people, maybe less skilled people, less knowledgeable people, that don't have a wife that's building a store in Etsy, or
So
that haven't just invested all the time that you have with the technology. How are you thinking about creating those systems for scale?
So right now, the initial thought is basically getting a lower cost sales force out there. One that can actually like do these things for me, and it's basically like them only having to input like 4 to 5 of these images into this basically like a machine that I built. Just stick it in this folder, and then press a button and have it turn over. That's something that we're building out in the next 3 months, because I feel like if I can get enough people that are out there and creating this um, multiple times and hitting these people directly and showing them what's possible,
Mhm.
it should balance out as long as we close the right amount per week. This basically literally what you're talking about is what I've been working out now, making sure the
Right.
economics make sense based on how much it's going to cost me per day to run these people, how many folks that they have to actually sign up, per day or per week for this to make sense economically, to hit that CAC that we that we're looking for versus the lifetime value of the customer. Because right now in my early state, a good amount of this is theoretical. This is new tech. A lot of people haven't seen it, and figuring out how long they're going to hold on is kind of it's just it's a new space. It's a new space, and there's new competitors entering all the time. Um,
Yeah.
so that's definitely going to be interesting. As far as what I'm dealing with VCs, it's basically based off of market data we can find out here. Like this is how long this target customer actually ends up selling. Like they last in the e-commerce space for 2.5 years, and the typical churn rate for this, these areas that I'm selling in is this. And kind of using that to back into my numbers, but yeah, I think I kind of went to another question there, but I think you get what I'm saying.
No, so you're defining a lot of the stuff that you're doing as you think about how you're going to sort of replicate yourself and scale yourself. Are you, putting together manuals, or you using any sort of software to document systems, or build out processes? Or is it still too early? You're still kind of trying to define the process. Talk to me a little bit
Still,
about
well, honestly, I want to make it as quick and easy as I said. Just it's having them just having a straight up list. Like they know step one is they go find a seller. Step two is collect those images. Step three is you put it into that folder. and then
Yeah.
you press the button, and then automatically having scripts that generate with that. So they would get the images back or a whole deck back for them. They would get an actual script to go for that customer as well. So it's really just figuring out those pieces. As far as like other channels other than going like directly at people, um, I'm kind of wondering like what that payback is going to be. Like I know I'm going to have to spend money on ads on places like Facebook and and Google Ads just to bring in folks, but I'm kind of dubious as to what that how good that conversion rate is going to be versus actually having someone see a picture of their product improved.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like why I was leaning on that. And granted, the upfront cost for me is going to be a lot higher, but I think it's going to be well worth it at the end conversion when I look at everything.
Yeah. That's right. Have you looked into, or have you used, I know that there are list vendors out there that will sell you a list of, everyone that has, or, the owners of all the Etsy storefronts, or people that have certain types of e-commerce technology installed. Have you done any cold outreach on those types of lists and found that to be
I
successful?
have I've grabbed a couple of lists. I haven't actually like dove into them that far yet,
Yeah.
honestly. That is something I need to figure out, and a good way to define who are going to be these users that folks should know to go at first. Like since I'm doing it myself, I kind of have a feel for, okay, I see this person is repeating images. All right, I can tell this person has this many SKUs.
Yeah.
So being able to have, like, I guess to your point also, just make sure that that's also in the script and to define who was a good target to go after and who's going to be most likely to convert.
Yeah. That's interesting. And you're in such an interesting space of, sort of a lot of these e-commerce companies that they themselves are sort of solopreneurs, or
Mhm.
certainly small companies, or micro companies. You really have a very large market to go after. It's almost like you have a consumer product, because of the
That's what
size
VCs
of the
say.
marketplace that you're going after. So that's really interesting. So as you know you're building the product, you're making sure customers are happy, and sort of fielding those things, as well as trying to go out and get new customers. How do you prioritize that? Do you have any systems or frameworks that you use for sort of making sure that you focus on what's the quadrant that's both urgent and important,
Hmm.
not just urgent and unimportant, or because it can be very distracting. Do you have any systems or frameworks that have been helpful for you? And
Honestly, that is the main framework that you're talking about there. And so much of it is based on time. So at the same time, since I am trying to make sure I have enough money to keep this venture going, I am out there, raising money from different avenues, whether I'm talking directly to a VC, talking, or applying for grants, talking to people that are pitching to grant folks. Been in two accelerators just recently. Like I just
that's
finished
right.
Techstars, and there was another one that I'm currently in right now, called Next Cubed. So yeah, just it's a tough task. So mostly it's trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the first thing I should go on based on time. So when are my sellers going to be ramping up? So I know I need to have this particular feature implemented and ready. And when is that investor, I mean, warm intro, not so warm anymore? And really just trying to make sure I'm balancing those two things is a task and a half. As a solopreneur, running a startup, I can tell you it's enough to make you pull your hair out at any given time.
Sure.
Yeah, honestly, that there's no one right answer that I can give here, other than you just kind of got to make choices based on what seems like it makes sense, and I pray it was the right one.
Sure. Well, and that's obviously a lot of the skill of entrepreneurship, is being
Hmm.
able to kind of decide where to invest those resources, whether it's your time or money, or whatever it might be. Um, One of the things that's, our work here is we do a lot of work where we serve as sort of an outsourced resource for companies at certain stages of their growth, and helping them get, marketing or sales or customer success systems in place. Have you done that much to date? Have you outsourced anything from, sort of your growth trajectory? And if so, what? How did you determine what to outsource, or what? Or, and if not, why not? Why are you pulling your hair out to do everything yourself?
I haven't, and the prevailing advice is typically that as you're, going to get to that seed level, I'm still pre-seed, is
Yeah.
that you want to make sure that you're the main person that's out there selling, so you understand what needs to be done, and you can even critique and talk to a salesperson when you do finally bring them on and be like,
Yeah.
hey, well, this is where I was able to find success. This is where I wasn't. Where can you punch up? So it's really part of it is kind of like that fear because when I hire slow, I will say that yes, part of it I probably should be moving a little bit faster, hiring a little bit quicker. I am the first hire I'm probably going to make outside of what I have currently probably will be someone that is somewhat in the sales area. I kind of wanted someone that could to help me with the marketing, branding, and more so community management. Because like I think really in this space, since it is kind of like a D2C play, most of this is really about relationships and them trusting this brand and loving it, and then making sure I hold on to those super users as we scale up. And this honestly, to talk about this is actually my go-to-market strategy is targeting these smaller users. As I call it like people that are using like third-party places where they're not even in control of the platform, like the Etsy's, the eBay's, the Amazon to a certain extent, the Macari's. Layer two is actually moving on and building this as a tool that's built right into the back end of people's Shopify's and WooCommerce stores. And that is going to be a completely different kind of sales strategy. I think as soon as I hit that tier, I can feel more comfortable passing it off, and it's not as high touch
Yeah.
um, because it's going to be built into these people's tools. And in third tiers, and I'm going after like the Targets and the Coca-Colas of the world,
Yeah.
having custom things built for them. But
That's
yeah, so as far as the go to market now, yeah, it's really it's more so I don't feel like I should be handing that off yet. Second tier, oh, I'm going probably going to hand that off pretty quickly.
yeah. Well, and that makes sense. And there's plenty of what the graveyard of startups is littered with the bodies of people who tried to hand things off too fast. And sort of didn't really understand either the dynamics of their business or the finances of their business, and didn't want to focus on that, and so they brought someone else in to do something they didn't really like doing, and then that person wound up not being a good steward, and so could take it into the ground for them. So I think it's wise that you can understand that you're not at that place yet, and you're sort of taking that ownership at the cost of pulling out your own hair, but that
Yeah,
is what
and
it is.
I'll say this too. I want to add this Mark too. So I did try to hire some contractors for the other part of the business before I decided to take it on myself, which I guess that's kind of like a theme with me here. But the thing that I noticed is that when you're hiring folks, it's kind of hard to get people that fully understand what it is to be at this stage of a business, to be at the very beginning of it.
Yeah,
And they more so can view things as if they're at a company that has like this unlimited runway, like they're working for some kind of blue chip company
right.
and then kind of imparting like the urgency, but also letting folks know that they have that autonomy to make some decisions on the fly because
That's right.
I'm not going to know everything. And to finding someone that understands like that the unique balance that comes in a startup is also pretty tough.
Yeah,
And yeah, just folks that aren't going to just be burning your runway, hitting their head against the wall, thinking that the next check is going to come anyway.
right. Or that can what's the analysis paralysis problem where I've run into a problem, let me write a report on it and then schedule time with you to talk about it, whereas you kind of just need them to make a decision and move
hmm
on. So
Like if it's the wrong one, no, I wasn't going to fire you. We were going to figure out what do we learn from that failure.
that's right, move
Yeah.
fast and break things to learn, right?
hmm
Well, this has been great. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think, for some of those folks that are listening that are in the e-commerce space, they might be interested in checking out Rush Roto. Where should they go? How can they connect with you?
Oh, for sure. They can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Chris Marsh. You can also search for Rush Roto, rushroto.com. It's rushroto.com. And you can connect with me right on there, sign up. And I'm offering everyone that's actually checking this out a free trial, and we can connect and we can talk through that whole process.
That's great. That's awesome. So I really enjoyed the chance to chat with you a little bit. Thanks so much, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. We hope you've gained insights to grow your business. If you enjoyed this discussion, please rate, comment, like on your favorite platform, and share to others who will find it useful. Do you know a CEO, founder, or leader at an early stage B2B services, tech, or SaaS company who would like to be a guest and share their story? Send us a note. Let's schedule a conversation.